Hello and welcome to Full Story. My name is Van Nguyen. Tonight on the program, I sit down with Kha Nguyen. Kha is a Vietnamese Australian who appeared in the national spotlight as a contestant on Network 10's Masterchef Australia in 2015. Since then, Kha has worked as a chef in Melbourne's eatery Tokyotina and is now currently a chef at one of the eatery's sister restaurant, Saigon Sally. He joins me in the studio to discuss his life growing up. Kha Nguyen, welcome to Full Story.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's been over 1 year since you entered Masterchef Australia. Does that time seem a long time ago, or does it seem like it was just yesterday that you appeared on the cooking show?
It is a long time. It's actually more than a year because we actually filmed like half a year before it went on TV. So yeah, and sometimes I still have flashbacks. There are times where it goes through my head where I'm like, I wish I did something else and all that. So yeah, and every day people still recognize me. You're the guy from MasterChef. So I sort of try to get away from it, but it always comes back. And yeah, sometimes it feels like, yeah, it was just yesterday, even though it was a year ago, but I've had an awesome time being on it and it's changed my life and I'm glad I went on to it. Yeah.
So you were born in Australia. Your father, mother and older brother were refugees of the Vietnam War. Yep. Growing up, did you embrace your cultural identity?
Well, growing up in primary school, I think I was born somewhere near here and I actually lived just down the road, I think, for a few months, like the housing commission flats, like most Vietnamese people. So
that's in Richmond?
In Richmond, Victoria Street. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I lived there for a few months. Then we moved down to Laylaw, which is now there's a big Vietnamese community there. So there was a lot of Vietnamese people. But to be honest, I didn't really embrace it that much. When I was young, I was actually embarrassed of my name Kha, because no one could pronounce it all the time. So it was just, and kids would make fun of it and all that. So I didn't really embrace being Vietnamese till like high school till I went to Melbourne High, which was like just predominantly Asians and we were the majority. It was fine to embrace it. So that's when I started to feel like, not different, I guess. Because every other time before Melbourne High, I went to a school where I was like the only Asian in the whole year level. So I tried to act like them. I never wanted to be Asian and all that. So yeah, it took a while. And now it's actually after, let's say, starting when I got my passion into cooking and liking Vietnamese food, that's when I started embracing it. And I guess now I would say I'm fully embraced being Vietnamese and actually being a proud Vietnamese because, yeah, it was just weird. I never embraced it until now. And I feel like, I guess being on MasterChef, I feel like I'm not a role model, but people say I should be a little bit. So I feel like I should embrace it and possibly help other Vietnamese people and all that stuff. Yeah. It's weird. It's changed. My life just changed in the last year and I haven't really embraced it properly, but I'm trying to now. Yeah.
You spoke about when you were younger, trying to fit in with the crowd, depending on where you were at that time. What kind of challenges did you face being a Vietnamese Australian? Or was it more advantageous for you?
I probably wasn't advantageous at all. The only thing was they thought, I was Asian, I was some Asian gangster or something. So that was the only thing. When I was young, I hated eating Asian food. I wanted to eat Western because I never had it. And all my friends from year 7 to 8, they were all Italians and Western. So that's the culture I wanted to be in until I hit year 9, go to Melbourne High. Then the Asians slowly crept in, but still, because after that, I think from 2000, I moved from Laylaw to Greensborough, which is predominantly a Western neighbourhood, and there was no Asians either. So I just kept on being being Western, like an Aussie, an Australian, and And when I got to Melbourne High, I was still that Aussie Asian. I wasn't the Asian. So I still tried to do that until recently. That's when I just dropped it and I thought, I'm Australian, everything's Asian. I think it's my fiance that's embraced it as well because she lives in Springvale. She's lived there all her life, so she's helped me embrace more my Vietnamese culture and all that, yeah. But it was fun, like it was nice being the token Asian here and there, but I don't know, I wasn't, sadly I was probably never proud to be Vietnamese. But now I would say I'm proud to be Vietnamese.
How important is it to maintain the Vietnamese values and traditions, do you think, in your opinion?
It's a bit hard, like, I understand why Asians and Vietnamese especially have these different values and traditions. And it's good to, I would say it's good to know it, and it is important, like, okay, we live in Australia, but every household, if you're Vietnamese, you still got to respect your Vietnamese traditions and all, and I try to. There are some things where I feel some traditions are a bit too old-fashioned, so that I don't agree with, but overall, I feel like it's important to remember your traditions, your heritage. Like Vietnam has gone through a lot, like my parents have gone through a lot. I understand why they try to instill it into me, but yeah, and I love them for that. It's sort of created who I am, but I think you need a mix of the Australian culture, which I think is a great culture as well, mixed with some Vietnamese as well. And then I think that's the perfect combination. You can't be too Vietnamese, it's a bit old-fashioned, but you can't be too Australian either. So a mix of both, and I think that's the way right now to do it, yeah.
Last year, or was it this year, you went to the Tet Festival?
It was start of the year. Yeah.
Start of this year?
Yeah.
How was that like, being part of the Vietnamese community?
Yeah, it was funny. Like, I joked around my brother, fiance and all that like, okay, I got into Masterchef, so I'm going to be a little bit famous now. Let's see, maybe like SBS and all these things will call and do something for for Vietnamese community. And I thought, nah, that won't happen. And then, yeah, I got a call up to do a cooking demo, and like I've been going to those festivals every year, but I never knew I'd be a part of it. So it was really exciting. It was a bit daunting because I cooked a Vietnamese dish, but it wasn't very Vietnamese, but I still, I guess it's really gutsy to do what I did in the middle of Victoria Street because my dish was, everyone's had bún bò Huế before, but I turned it into a dumpling form. So, and everyone was like, what's that? But yeah, I got away with it. I survived. No one had a go at me, I guess. Yeah. So it was really fun. And it was really fun to be a part of it. And I'd love to do it again.
Your brother became a pharmacist, and for a while you were following his footsteps. But in your final year of studying pharmacy, you changed to a degree in food science and nutrition. When did you realize that the pharmaceutical world wasn't for you?
Probably like first year in. It was never, probably even in high school, it was never for me.
You went to Melbourne High, and that's one of the best high schools in Melbourne. Yeah,
went there. When you go to Melbourne High, you probably everyone expects you to either become a doctor, lawyer, accountant, pharmacist. So follow that mold, and I hated it. To be honest, I didn't really like studying in high school because I didn't really get to do what I wanted to do. It was more, unfortunately, me and probably nearly every other Asian kid had their parents chose their path, and it just wasn't for me. And so all my friends got into medicine and all that, and I got into pharmacy, but deep down inside I knew I didn't like it, but I just did it to make my parents happy. And then it got to the point where, last year, just couldn't handle it anymore. And yeah, it created a lot of conflict, but I'd sort of timed it where I did it during my brother's wedding before. So they were a bit too preoccupied to to care as much because they had that, but there was still a lot of conflict. But oh well, it's happened. I'm glad I did it because, yeah, I don't know, probably wouldn't. I would have struggled to finish it now, and
you'd be unhappy.
Unhappy, yeah. And then going to food science, I only did it because my parents wanted me to get a degree. I didn't really want one. They have a mentality. You get looked down upon if you don't have a degree or anything. But I just couldn't do it. I think the years of high school just put me off studying for a while, and yeah, I just couldn't do any uni and all that. But cooking was always something that I loved, and I cooked at home, and then I thought, oh, actually not bad at it, and yeah, and fiance was like, why don't you try out for Masterchef, and yeah, started from there.
How did you learn to cook?
I think it started when I was young, and in going through high school, I just loved watching cooking shows, like Jamie Oliver and Channel 10, then Gordon Ramsay. I just loved watching it, and instead of studying for pharmacy, I would always watch cooking stuff on YouTube, and it just went from there. And I would try it, buy cookbooks, and just keep on trying. Yeah, I just learned from watching stuff, reading cookbooks, and trying it at home. That's the thing. And yeah, that was the only. No one taught me anything. My mum would never teach me. If I was ever in the kitchen when I was young, my dad would like, get out. That's all. Like, it's not really a man's place, it's a woman's thing. So yeah, I learned from just watching stuff on YouTube and TV and reading cookbooks. And it's slowly, of course, I've always thought maybe I should go to culinary school, but it is a grey area. Some people say you should, some people you don't. So, but I'm probably on the bit of don't. So I thought I learn better with practical stuff. So I am learning a lot more in the kitchen, I think. So I think I've gone down the right track of just doing my education in the kitchen. Yeah.
On Masterchef, you said that part of the reason you entered the competition was to seek the approval of your parents. Yeah. How did your decision to pursue a career in cooking affect the relationship between you and your family?
My brother was fine. Parents, no. Like they were fully against it, and I think now they're slowly getting with it and they're approving of it. But back then, they hated it. It was a bit weird. Like, you would think I got into MasterChef, pretty big achievement. They're like, it's like, oh, it's just a little fun thing. Let him do it, and he's not going to get anything out of it. But I persisted, even though I didn't go far. All I wanted to do was to show them that I actually wanted to be serious about this, and that I wanted a career out of this, that it wasn't a hobby. That was the main thing. I didn't want to show them that it was a hobby and that it's actually a career I can forge out of it. Yeah, and like my parents, like any other Asian parent, they probably would have seen it as like, what an idiot, why drop pharmacy when you can make lots of money, go to a career that's like hard working and all that. But I don't regret that decision once. I love everything I do now, and even though it's hard, but every day is a new challenge, and I've loved it since. Yeah.
Speaking about your experience in MasterChef, we'll quickly talk about that. What was that experience like for you?
Surreal. It was what you see on TV is you only see probably 10% of it. Like, there's a lot of behind the scenes things. Met a few great guys. Reynolds, one of my best mates now, is Reynolds and Jamie, who's like the Sri Lankan guy. We shared a room together. We shared it with Matt, but now Reynolds and Jamie are actually a part of my bridal party as well for my wedding. So it's great. I've made like lifelong friendships, and it was just a surreal thing. Like, there's so much stuff behind the scenes you don't see, but every day was fun. It was like, went away, stayed away, like never got to come home every day. So it was just like a little vacation pretty much of having fun.
Let's talk about your elimination.
Yeah.
You were eliminated on 2 Vietnamese dishes against 2 cooks of non-Vietnamese background.
Yeah.
Was that a shock for you at that time?
Not really. Like, thinking about it, I shouldn't have chosen Vietnamese because I don't cook that much Vietnamese. But yeah, it did hurt going out on that, but I think a few months later I came back to do redemption round and I cooked the same dishes, put them back together, and I got top 3 of it. So I was fine with it. It did hurt. Thinking about it, sometimes I think maybe I should have chosen Spanish, but oh well, everything happens for a reason, and yeah, oh well, it still made me memorable. Everyone remembers me as the guy that bombed out on Vietnamese food, but
quite ironic.
Yeah, it was quite ironic. I hate quail, but oh well, what can you do?
So now can you cook that dish really well?
Well, the last time I cooked quail was on my redemption dish. I've not touched anymore. It since. I've made like Vietnamese coleslaw gai a lot of times after that, but I haven't touched quail since. Yeah. But yeah, I can cook it now. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about where you're working now. Before Masterchef, you were a salesman at Tiffany & Co. And now you're working at a very popular restaurant called Tokyotina, situated in Chapel Street. What's that like? That's a pretty big contrast from before and after. So
I'm actually not there anymore. I actually moved to the one above it, which is Saigon Sally. But yeah, so Vietnamese food now. So Tokyotina, I was actually really scared because I've actually had no restaurant training at all. And they threw me into my own section, and yeah, and I loved it from day one. It was hard trying to do all this stuff, but after a few weeks I got the hang of it, and yeah, it was probably the best job I've ever had. Like, yeah, it was not the easiest, definitely not the easiest job, but one of the best, the most rewarding. It was long hours. We did probably like, you do 10, 11 hours every day on your feet, but I learnt so much. I'm really grateful what I've learnt there. All the chefs there were really friendly and helpful, and yeah, and then you got people would come and just come and ask me to come out and talk to them because they recognise me and all that, but it was really fun. Japanese fusion food, it's not really authentic Japanese, but it's just play on it. And now I've actually moved to the sister restaurant, which is Saigon Sally, so it's more Vietnamese food now, which is I thought I'll go there, learn more, and yeah, from there.
And how do your parents feel now?
They thought I was only doing it for a little bit and go back. I knew they would always tell my fiance, try to get Kha back to go to uni and all that stuff, but she knew I never wanted to do it. I think now they've slowly warmed to it, and they've known I'm on this path now that I think they've just accepted it, I guess. I think they tell everyone now. At one point, I don't think they were very happy I was on Masterchef, but now I see them posting stuff about me on their Facebook pages and all that, so I think they're proud. It's hard to read them. Like, I hope they're proud, but I'm still doing it for myself, and in the end, I would love them to see, like, I would love to prove to them that, yeah, this was the right track. I still think it's the right track. They probably don't, but well, I'm still going to try to prove it to them. Yeah.
You've got a very supportive fiance by your side. It must be really great to have someone like her.
Yeah, she's the best person in the world. She's my #1 fan, I guess. Yeah, I owe it to her. She's the one that pushed me to do this. I didn't want to, like, I didn't have the confidence to do it, but she pushed me to it and we got through it. Yeah, she was there when I got eliminated, and she was there when, yeah, all the downs and all the highs. She's there now supporting me being a chef. We used to see each other a lot. Now I'm away for a lot, like 10, 12 hours a day, come home, it's like midnight, and then she's like asleep, so she won't see me. But I don't know, I think I think she's just happy that I'm happy. She knew I was pretty miserable for a while, but I think she's just happy that I'm actually doing something that I want to do with my life. Yeah. But yeah, she's probably the best. I owe everything that's happened now to her.
So nowadays you're cooking. Do you cook for your family and fiance, and what kind of feedback do you get?
I still think my parents don't like my food. Like, because the way I cook, it's like, it's Vietnamese, but it's got a Western spin to it. So like my pho, my mum hates it, but my fiance loves it. Because the way we cook it, it's very different to how your traditional, like a traditional Vietnamese mum does it. But yeah, so every time I cook, my parents they always have their own opinions in things and all that. So but that's because they're so used to traditional Vietnamese. So I just take their advice with a grain of salt, but I listen to my fiance. I think she'll be super honest about it. And also because she's eaten out with me all the time. So I think she sort of feels I wouldn't say she's a superstar critic, but I think she knows what things should be tasting like. So I always listen to her. Don't really cook much at home, and whenever I do, it's either something really simple, or if I'm experimenting for maybe new menu items and all that. So she gets to test them out. And yeah, it's sad, but when you work, the last thing you want to do when you get home is cook, because you're cooking all day. So at the start, I used to eat a lot of fast food, and that's the diet of a lot of chefs, just fast food, because the last thing you want to do is cook. Yeah, but yeah, so I do like, and cooking at home, it's not really the same as a kitchen, because in a professional commercial kitchen, you've got really great equipment, but then at home, can't really do the same thing. So it does get frustrating sometimes, and yeah, sometimes when I cook, I get angry, and I don't want to be angry at home when I want to relax. Yeah, so yeah, sometimes I cook when it's a big family event. I try to cook something, and yeah, I don't know what the critique is. Because it's hard cooking for a traditional Vietnamese family, because they're so set in a certain thing that, yeah, I can't. I'm trying to get them to sort of see it a different way. Hopefully, it's slowly working, but yeah, hopefully that's the goal, that they can sort of understand what I want to do.
Last year, you also collaborated with your fellow contestant, who you mentioned, Ronald, in Collaboration. Yeah. Can you explain to our viewers what that was?
Okay.
How the idea came about?
So Collaboration was, so Ronald and I, people were saying we had a bromance on the show, because I don't know, I just clicked with him on like the second day of Masterchef. I just sat next to him. We just started talking. We found out we had a lot of things in common. Yeah, so his brother, Arnold, is also was a MasterChef judge in MasterChef Indonesia. So he was pretty famous over there, and he's got his own restaurant. So he invited Ronald and I over to do a 3-day dinner event. So I did. So we flew over, cooked a dinner for 3 nights, and it was an awesome time. Like, first time I've ever been to Indonesia, Jakarta, and it was an eye-opener seeing the country. And it was cool that I got to show the Indonesians my version of pho as well. So yeah, it was really fun. Yeah, I was only there for like a week, but it was an awesome week.
Can we expect something similar here in Melbourne?
We'll see how it goes. We're pretty busy. Like, Reynolds busy with his own dessert bar in Sydney. Arnold's in Jakarta. I'm here in Melbourne. So it's a bit hard. We're all in different. We've talked about things like I've talked to Reynolds and some of the other MasterChef boys once in a while. We talk maybe to do a collaboration, but it's just hard trying to find the time for all of us to be free to do it, and like locations and that. But who knows, fingers crossed, something might happen.
How about on your wedding night?
No way. I thought everyone's like, why don't I cook for my own wedding? Like, That's probably the craziest thing. Because
That'd be a first.
Yeah, we're expecting like 300 people.
Wow.
I'm like, nah, no way. I've got a caterer. They can do whatever they want. Yeah, I just want to enjoy my wedding night. Yeah.
You spoke about travelling overseas. Have you gone to Vietnam?
Yeah, I've been to Vietnam 3 times in my life. Most recent time was, I think, 6 years ago, I think. Yeah, that went with my family, so I had to do everything with my family. And even when I tried to go by myself, my Vietnamese I thought my Vietnamese was decent. They couldn't understand me properly. I think it's because people say when I speak Vietnamese, it has that Australian accent on it, and they knew. So it was just hard. Had an awesome time because my family's from Nha Trang. So, and we've got like a place there. So every time we go, we stay there and we just visit the beach, have fun.
It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, I say it's like the Gold Coast of Vietnam, pretty much. I would love to go back, but like then experience the food properly. Because every time I go with family, they go to places that they think are clean and all that, won't get ill. But I would love to try just proper street food and all the proper Vietnamese like delicacies and that I've never tried.
What advice would you give to our viewers who want to pursue a career in the culinary world?
First of all, I think my way will be, you got to see if you're really willing to do it or if it's a hobby. Because once you go into it, it's completely different to what you cook at home. Be ready for long hours, cutting yourself, burning yourself, just hurting yourself. But also, if you're willing to go through all that, it's probably one of the most rewarding jobs you'll ever do. I think you don't do it for the money. No way would you do it for the money. You just got to have the passion for it. And if you think you can survive the long hours, hurting yourself and all that, and still want to do it, I think then it's the thing for you. Like, it's just a surreal thing. Like every time I had chef friends before and they say, sure, you really want to do it. It's really hard and all that. And I knew what I was getting to. I've researched, I've watched all these, like even though there's like some TV shows like Masterchef, people say that actually doesn't portray the real kitchen world. You have to actually watch some other shows. And I knew what I was getting myself into, but it's, yeah, as I said, it's one of the most rewarding things. You'll learn a new thing every day. I just went in with an open mind. I just thought, I came in not knowing anything, so I just listened and learned. And from there onwards, yeah, it's just taken me on one of the best journeys ever. And yeah, I think for advice-wise, just be prepared. It's not the same as what you see on TV, because it's a lot different, and be prepared for all the hardships you'll go through. But
work hard,
yeah,
and don't give up.
Yeah, work hard, don't give up, but you'll get rewarded. Like the rewards are like endless.
And is it still your future goal to open up a restaurant one day? Yeah,
I would love to open up my own place. Like I've done a few pop-ups here and there. But yeah, that's the goal. I still think I'm not ready to open one, like skill level wise and just knowledge wise. So that's why I still want to work and feel like build up the level where I think I'm ready. But yeah, that's the goal. I would love to open up my own, Vietnamese inspired place.
And last question, are you happy?
Yeah, I would say happy. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with my life. Of course, it's hindsight. I would have loved to have probably done this a lot earlier in my life, not go through waste. I don't want to say that I wasted probably close to 10 years of my life not doing something I wanted, but I guess I still gained a lot of things in those 10 years, but I wish that I could have just maybe done this culinary thing when I went out of high school. But who knows, my life would have been a lot different. I I probably wouldn't be here sitting with you if I didn't do all the pharmacy and then go into Masterchef. So yeah, but yeah, I am happy. I'm pretty much where I want to be. I'm getting married end of the year, so can't ask for much more, I guess. Yeah, I'd say pretty happy with life at the moment. It's going on the path where I want to go. So yeah, I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Kha Nguyen, thank you very much for joining us today.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for having me.